Have you ever witnessed a moment so shocking that it completely flips the script on who you thought was winning and who was losing? Well, let me tell you about a wedding where a groom thought he was going to humiliate his poor ex-wife in front of everyone, but what happened instead left the entire room speechless. It all began with Daniel, a man from a wealthy family who was always proud, arrogant, and obsessed with appearances. He had once been married to a simple, kind-hearted woman named Maria. She came from humble beginnings, raised in a small town where hard work was more valuable than money, and love was considered the richest treasure. When Maria first met Daniel, she was smitten by his charm and charisma, and despite the whispers that he was too proud for someone like her, she believed love could conquer all. But as the years passed, Daniel's pride only grew heavier. He constantly reminded Maria of her lack of status, her plain clothes, and the fact that she never fit in with his high-class circle. She tried everything to please him, working extra jobs to contribute, keeping the house spotless, even sacrificing her dreams to stand by him. But Daniel wasn't satisfied. Eventually, his eyes wandered, and he filed for divorce, leaving Maria heartbroken and cast aside like she was nothing more than a burden. The years after the divorce were brutal for Maria. She had no support system, no savings, and no one to lean on. But she did have one thing, her faith that life could still change. What Daniel didn't know was that just months after their separation, Maria discovered she was pregnant. And not just with one child, she was carrying triplets. The news was overwhelming. Raising even one child alone would have been difficult, but 3? It felt impossible. Yet, Maria decided she wouldn't give up. She was determined to give her children the love and life she never had. Through endless nights of exhaustion, juggling 3 jobs, and battling loneliness, Maria poured her entire heart into raising her children. She endured judgment from neighbors, rejection from employers, and countless tears in the dark, but she never let her babies feel unloved. Over time, the triplets grew bright, kind, and full of life, and they became Maria's reason to fight harder. She sacrificed everything for them, and eventually, life started rewarding her. A small business she started from home blossomed into a success. What began as sewing and selling clothes turned into a boutique that quickly attracted attention, eventually expanding into a full fashion brand. Maria, once mocked for her simple clothes, was now designing gowns for celebrities and building a name for herself in the world of fashion. Meanwhile, Daniel was living his own life, seemingly happy but always chasing more wealth and status. When he finally announced his second marriage, to a woman from another rich family, he was determined to make it a grand spectacle. Every guest was carefully chosen, every decoration dripping in gold. And then, in a cruel twist, he decided to invite Maria. But not out of kindness. No, Daniel wanted to flaunt his success in front of the woman he once abandoned, to prove to her and to everyone else that she was beneath him, still stuck in her lowly place while he was thriving. The invitation reached Maria, and for a moment, she hesitated. Why should she walk into the lion's den? Why let herself be ridiculed again? But then she looked at her children, her 3 beautiful blessings who had grown into confident, intelligent young adults, and realized this wasn't about humiliation. This was about standing tall, showing her children the strength of resilience, and proving to herself that she was no longer the broken woman he had once left. The day of the wedding arrived. The grand hall was filled with guests dressed in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos, chatter buzzing through the air. Daniel, dressed in his tailored suit, smirked every time someone praised his taste and wealth. But then, the sound of a sleek car engine caught the attention of the crowd outside. Heads turned as a shining black limousine pulled up to the entrance. From inside stepped Maria, graceful, radiant, and glowing with a quiet confidence that silenced the crowd. Her gown, elegant yet modest, shimmered under the lights, and beside her stood her 3 children, each holding her hand, dressed impeccably, their resemblance to Daniel undeniable. Gasps rippled through the guests. Daniel's face went pale as he realized who they were. He hadn't even known about the children, let alone that they were triplets. His smug confidence crumbled as Maria walked toward him, her children proudly by her side. The whispers in the hall grew louder, questions about why Daniel had abandoned such a woman, why he hadn't supported his own children, why he had acted as though she was beneath him when she had clearly built a life of strength and dignity. For the first time in years, Maria met Daniel's eyes. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult him. Instead, with calm grace, she said, "You invited me here to shame me, Daniel. But look closely, I have nothing to be ashamed of. These are my children. Our children. And they are the greatest success I'll ever have." The room fell silent. Daniel stammered, trying to defend himself, but it was useless. His new bride looked at him with shock and disgust, guests whispered behind their hands, and the image of Daniel as the perfect man shattered before everyone's eyes. Maria, on the other hand, walked out with her head high, her children at her side, leaving behind not bitterness, but a powerful lesson. The limo doors closed, and as they drove away, Maria smiled through tears. She knew the years of pain, sacrifice, and struggle had led her to this moment, not of revenge, but of victory. Her story was no longer one of abandonment, but of resilience, triumph, and the undeniable truth that sometimes life's greatest heartbreaks lead to life's greatest blessings. And so, the message is clear: never underestimate the strength of someone who has been broken and rebuilt themselves. Because sometimes, the person you tried to bury ends up shining brighter than you ever imagined.